Hey, what's going on, guys? This isn't an episode of From Grateful to Greatness. This is just something I needed to talk about real quick because it's important. It's a little tip of advice, and I feel like it needs to be said. So let's say it. Just got out the gym a little while ago, so I'm a little geeked and shit. But I was having a conversation with somebody on Instagram because of a picture I posted, which was of Evolution issue 2. And by the way, yeah, it's done. It's going to be out to print this weekend, man. In a few weeks, we're going to see another issue of our comic book, and I can't freaking wait. It's really exciting. But anyway, somebody told me that they really want to write a comic book as well. They just can't figure out, they just been having trouble getting the motivation to start it, and, they don't know where to begin and all that kind of stuff. It's not the first time I've heard this, by the way, about the comic or about my book, my I've said it all before book. People ask me that, I've been asked that many times in the past. How'd you start? How did you start? That's my problem. I just can't figure out how to start. And I'm going to tell you, your biggest problem is not figuring out how to start. Your biggest problem is that you're not starting. What I mean by that is, I know that sounds kind of stupidly vague, but what I mean by that is, stop focusing so much on a beginning. The worst mistake all writers make or have made, and listen, I'm going to give you really the best piece of advice if you're a writer that you're ever going to hear, and I don't mean to sound cocky, arrogant, or whatever, but it's really confident because it's coming from a place of true experience because I made these mistakes in the past. And I ain't Shakespeare, I ain't Stephen King, I ain't nobody special, but what I do know is this: as a writer, the best thing you can do is just fucking start. And what I mean by that is, don't worry about having a beginning. I've said it all before. My book was in hiatus for the longest time because I basically talked myself into thinking I needed to have a beginning for it to start. And I think we're so obsessed with things having a beginning that we think if we don't figure out the start point, how are we going to figure out the rest? And man, once I just decided, you know what, fuck that bullshit. I'm just going to do what I got to do. I'm just going to start writing shit. I don't care about editing it. I don't care about an order anymore. I'm just going to write. If I feel like writing about, when I lost 50 pounds, I'll write about that. If I feel like writing about, my grandfather today, I'll write about that. And all I did was I set aside time every single night and wrote stuff. If it was a motivational thought, if it was a memory from my childhood, it didn't matter. The book was about me. The book was about how I overcame my weight loss and quitting smoking and all that stuff. And it was going to be about my life. And I knew all that. I knew what it was about. Just like Evolution, we knew what it was about. Once we decided, man, let's just sit down and write the damn thing. Let's stop worrying so much about editing it and putting it in some linear, perfect order. Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, the editing part never stops. It never stops. You're never going to think your writing is perfect. If you're a true writer like me, like RJ, you're never going to think that. You're going to always go back and be like, man, this could have been better. This could have been handled a little bit more cleanly. You're always going to think that. I look at my book and I'm like, man, there's so much of this book I would have done 10 times better than this. And that's why, though, as a writer, you have to just get it out of your head. Stop worrying so much about order. Stop worrying so much about editing because, like I said, the editing will never stop. Just start. Just write whatever's in your head every day. It doesn't matter if it's an order. The order will come later. I promise you. Later on, you're going to get to a point where you're like, man, I got so much material. Now let me go back and start piecing it together like a puzzle. That's what I did with my book. I didn't write it in some order. I just wrote pieces of it, and when it was all said and done, I was like, you know what, this is good. I started putting it together, just like the comic book. We wrote an ending, we wrote the beginning, we wrote this, we wrote that, we wrote this character, that character, and then it all came together, and we were like, okay, now we have a basis for a first issue. Now we can start writing it. And even as we wrote the first issue, we still went back and we're like, man, there's stuff, this was when before it was done. We went back and we're like, man, this doesn't make sense. Let's change this. Let's fix this. Let's have this character say this instead of that. And the editing never stops. That's what I'm saying. Eventually, yeah, you're going to get to a point where you're like, okay, I am confident with this piece of work I've done. Let me put it out to the world. But you're never going to get to that point if you don't start. And if you don't toss the idea of having a beginning and order and needing to edit things out the window, if you keep thinking like that, it's never going to get out of your head. Never. It's not about, a lot of people say, I procrastinate or I can't find the motivation. No, I don't even think it's about any of that. I think it's about legitimately the fact that you are so obsessed with needing a beginning that you're stopping yourself from even starting in the first place. You think everything has to be perfect and then I'll start writing it. And that's bullshit, man, because you're a writer and all you are, in essence, is a painter with a keyboard. There ain't no painter out there that's like, I have to paint the perfect apple. And if I can't paint the perfect apple, I'm never painting until that happens. Painters don't think like that. Artists don't think like that. And you're a writer. So be a writer, be an artist, write. It's never gonna be perfect. It's never gonna always make sense, especially if you're writing something with a story. I don't care if it's about dragons fighting rabbits. I mean, it's never gonna make complete sense because even in the greatest pieces of fiction ever written, there's loopholes. There's shit that doesn't add up. I mean, you can go to the greatest movies of all time and find shit that don't add up. That's wrong. It'll never be perfect. Stop worrying about perfection. Stop worrying about order. And stop worrying about needing a beginning. Just get it out of your head. That's it. That's my big piece of advice to writers. I don't even know what I said at the beginning of this video. Did I say it was going to be short? None of my videos are ever short. I don't know what I was thinking. I hope that helped you guys in some way, though. And yeah, that's it. We'll talk later. Peace.